My companions, welcome. I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time. Alexander, 2004. I went to see it when it came out and I loved it. And today, well, whatever it is, 20 odd years later, I've recently rewatched it, and that's what spurred me into making this review of the trailer. So yeah, let's get into it and let's break it down and see what we can make of it.
By the age of 25, he had conquered the known world and changed the course of mankind forever.
So I really like the uniforms that they've come up with for this film. From the source material that I've seen, they're pretty accurate, to be honest. There's a few pieces here and there where you might think, oh, maybe they've had a bit of an artistic license, but overall, it's pretty accurate to the source material that we have. After Gladiator, this was about the next big historical film that came out, and I think they did pretty well. Again, Oliver Stone, he's a great director, but trying to get the sheer majesty and scale of the ancient world that they were operating in. Yeah, sure, he had to miss out a few pieces, but overall, I think he's done a really great job. And I, for one, believe that if you're making a historical epic, you need to show the quantity and the number of troops. And I think, especially in the Battle of Gaugamela, they did fantastic. Something that should have been shown better in Napoleon in the battles in that film. So, yeah, Alexander nailed it, in my opinion. Possibly we could have used a few more battle scenes, but I guess they're trying to show us the whole of the film. Whole of his story, rather than just concentrating on the military side.
And I promise you'll conquer death!
So, what did you think? Have you actually seen the movie? If not, what did you think of the trailer? And if you have seen the movie, what did you think about the movie? Please leave your comments down below. But for me, yeah, having seen the movie, yes, it does have a few areas that it could use a little bit of work on, let's put it that way. But overall, I think it managed to do a really great job. It takes us all the way through from sort of his development, his early years, through his father being killed, Val Kilmer, not intending to be the comedy relief of the film, but does quite a good job at being the comedy. But again, wasn't expecting him to be in it. Does a pretty good job as Philip. We see Philip get killed. We also see Alexander and his horse, and how their relationship built in the beginning. So I think, yeah, as a build-up, it's great because it does show us the development of him and how he how his upbringing moved him forwards to the final point where he became King of Macedonia. And then also we do get information on what were the reasons behind launching the invasion into Persia. When it comes to the uniforms, I kind of already touched on it a bit, but overall, I think they did a really good job. I've read a few articles which show that when they were designing the uniforms, they actually had Osprey books to base a lot of the uniforms off of. So they did actually do some real research to try and get it correct, unlike so many films where they just decide they're going to create armour for the point of creating armour, and helmets which have absolutely 0 point, like the helmets in The Last Duel. I think that's a pretty good film overall, but what's up with those helmets? Why didn't they just give them historically accurate helmets? In Alexander, the uniforms for both the Macedonians, the Persians, and the Indians are pretty accurate. They're pretty good for what, as far as we know from the source material. So that's really cool. Again, when it comes to the military conquest, it's, well, blimey, at the age of 25, he was going out. By the time he was 33 and he died, he'd conquered pretty well the largest empire of the ancient world. That's a lot of land and a lot of story to tell. I would have maybe liked to have seen the Siege of Tyre, because that was such an interesting siege. I mean, an island out in the ocean, and so he built an entire causeway to get out there. That would have been pretty interesting to show the sort of the ingenuity of the man and his generals. But they were telling more of the story of him with the military aspects thrown in, which I can't fault them on, because otherwise you risk doing a Napoleon and trying to put a bit of everything in and never actually getting anything. Was the story maybe a bit disjointed? I would say yes. You do have a little bit of jumping backwards and forwards, so you can quite easily lose the continuity of where you actually are in time periods. And along with that, again, due to the sheer scale of the empire that he built, they do throw out a lot of names and places, names of places, sorry. So unless you are aware of them and where they actually are located, it could go over your head a little bit. So I would say a little bit more, maybe even in their editing, they could have streamlined it a bit more for the average viewer who isn't proficient in ancient history. But for me, that didn't actually detract from the film at all. As far as the final battle of the film, when he's in India, that is a really cool scene. I really enjoyed it. Quite accurate, but it kind of ends up giving you the feeling that they lost the battle and Alexander was severely wounded, which he was. But then you kind of end up with the thought that maybe that's what then leads on to his death in the next few scenes. Whilst actually it was a Macedonian victory, one of their bloodiest, but they did win, and the Indian, I can't remember the name of the group, but due to Alexander's respect for them in the battle, he allowed that leader, that king, I think he was, to remain basically in charge, but just as, in effect, de facto Alexander's governor, rather than doing away with them all. So they missed that opportunity, I think, in the film. But again, how long can a film go on for? So overall, I think they did a pretty good job in the whole thing. And again, like I said before, if you've got differing opinions, let me know why you feel differently, but also what it is about the film that you think they should have done differently. Or maybe they should have cut something out, added something in. Yeah. Because Alexander, he's such a fascinating character, and the Empire. And then just how, once he dies, it pretty well just disintegrates. I mean, I can't remember the exact wording, but he literally said, it'll go to the strongest. And so immediately all of his generals started splitting it up. And then that really leads all the way through, up until like Pyrrhus and early Rome, until the Romans finally take over. So yeah, it's a very, very fascinating time period of history with so much for people to learn, and there's so much of it's just not taught in school, well, in my experience anyway, and talking to guys that I work with who are younger than me now, they just don't get taught anything about the ancient world period, and I think that's a great shame, because the characters, the people, the civilizations, just the whole history and that time period was transformatory for Western civilization, but also the world, because as we can see here, he got all the way through to India, and so it will have had an effect on India to a certain extent. So really needs to get taught better, in my opinion. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll go and watch the film again. I probably will, because when I watch a film and I like it, I binge watch it a few times. So anyway, till next time guys, take care.